Welcome back to year 2 of the show. First off, big thanks to anyone who supported me through year 1. I would not have made it to year 2 of the show without any of you guys. If you're a new listener, thank you for showing up, but especially anyone who supported me last year. I really do appreciate it. It was a pretty hectic year last year, and I was very happy that I'm able to continue doing this here. So some news right off the jump. I will be doing a main slate breakdown here. There's only 3 games to talk about, but I do have some news before I do that. So first off, this is no longer called the College Football Breakdown Show. The Breakdown, the site I was with, died, kicked the bucket, no longer with us. So I do have a few different things going on. Obviously, this show still being one of them, but that's no longer a name. So we're just going without a name for now. Also, big news. We have an official sponsor for the show. So I'm super excited to welcome PrizePicks on as our official sponsor over here to the, whatever that is, to the right of me, I think, when you're watching. PrizePicks, if you're unfamiliar with PrizePicks, I'm sure some of you are familiar. It's basically a daily fantasy and a prop site, a prop app. We're super excited to have them on. I'm going to add a segment on to the end of the show about PrizePicks, and I'm going to do that each week. And I'll also be tweeting them out. So first off, if you don't follow me on Twitter, at YonkersCFB, go ahead and give me a follow. I tweet out more information, any plays that I don't cover here. So PrizePicks operates in every U.S. state and Canada except for the following states: Arizona, Colorado, Delaware, Hawaii, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, Maryland, Maine, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nevada, New Hampshire, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, and Washington. And basically how it works, you guys actually get a 100% instant deposit match, 100% deposit match up to $100. So you put $100 in, you get $100 back. You get it immediately. It's not dispersed. You get it back immediately in promo funds. The promo funds only have a one-time rollover, so you can go ahead and do that, and you can have a $100 rollover, a $100 free roll if you wanted to. You don't have to go up to all the way to 100. That's up to 100. It's promo code Yonke. That's my last name, YONKE. It is over there. I will put it into the link for the show. I will also put a link to PrizePicks in the description. If you are interested, I highly encourage you. It's awesome. I have been using it for over a year, and I really like the site. I'm not touting it just to tout it. Like I really do enjoy the site. I'm really excited to have them on as a sponsor. So how it works, it's very simple fantasy game. You pick 2 to 5 players, so you need more than one, but 2 to 5 players. You can do 2, 3, 4, or 5, whatever you want to do. Obviously, if you have 5, that would be a higher payout if you were able to hit 5 for 5. There's no sharks, there's no optimizers, there's no mass multi-entry. It's simply just you versus the projection. So if you think you have a read on the projection, then I'll give you my read on the projection. You're simply trying to beat the projection. That's all you're trying to do. You can do mixed sport entries, so if you're in the NFL, NBA, I know I was doing Summer League, was pretty profitable. Sharif Cooper was way too low. Shout out Sharif Cooper, made me some good PrizePicks money. You can take the over on LeBron, and you can parlay that with the under on Mahomes, or the under on the New Mexico State guys this week. I guess LeBron's not playing, but NFL starting up, so you could mix it with NFL. It's slick. It's easy to use. They got a mobile app. It's rated 4.8 stars in the app with rave reviews. And once again, that's promo code Yonke. You get a 100% deposit match right away. So, with that being said, before we get into it, actually, this DFS preview video is actually going to be found in podcast format. I know I've had a few people asking me in the comments in the past, is this available by podcast? And actually this year I am trying to do that. So this is going to be the test run, this week 0. Gives me 3 games to talk about, and we'll test run it. We'll test run PrizePicks. It is. So I have a campus-to-campus podcast that I record with my buddy Kevin Brown. It's a CFF podcast, College Fantasy Football. We usually cover some betting and things like that too. Like to shoot the shit together. He's a cool dude. Anyway, I'm going to put the link in the description. My plan is to just post that on our podcast feed. So that way it'll be available in the campus-to-campus podcast network. So yeah, that's new. That's exciting. There's a lot new and exciting this year. With that being said, we have games. We have college football games. It's been a long off season. I am super excited if you can't tell. I know I try to get myself not to talk too fast because I get freaking excited. We have college football. I can't wait to sit there, crack a beer, and watch some football. Even though the games are not great this year, we're going to take them because last year it was a shit show and we got through it. We played it. But honestly, I'm really looking forward to this year. There's going to be less COVID stuff. Obviously, that'll still be a thing. But last year, there was no news, and it was very frustrating. It frustrated me. The news just was not out there. You had to scour message boards. You had to be listening to some random guy in Discord. You have no idea who he is, if he's a bot. And you had to listen to these, well, I think this one guy has COVID, and it's not reported by the beat writers. Why? Well, the beat writers weren't allowed to be with the team because of COVID protocol. So it was an absolute mess for a number of reasons, for the contact tracing, for everything. I had a number of lineups just get totally smashed because a guy didn't play. Or what have you, his quarterback didn't play. His whole offensive line didn't play. Shout out Minnesota. They were a mess last year. So anyway, this year it should be a little more normal, and I'm super, super excited to get into it. Right off the top, if you're new, I'm not a tout. This is just free information. I play this. I research this. I've won money 3 years in a row doing this. I am not usually a 150 lineup player. Sometimes I do the mini maxes, whatnot. Sometimes I do the 150. I just don't do that every single week. But I do try to give you information here that'll help you, whatever you are. If you're a single bullet guy, or if you're a mass entry guy, GPP guy, whatever you are, I'm trying to provide the information for you. I do believe I'm the best free information there is. Again, not to tout myself, but it's free information. It's meant to be good. It's meant to be fun. I want to interact with you guys. This is an exchange of knowledge, right? That's what DFS is. So with that whole spiel out of the way, you're like, shut the F up, man. When is this guy ever going to stop talking? Let's get to the games. Sure, let's get to the games. I can't wait. We get to talk about Nebraska and Illinois right off the jump. Right off the jump. I'm not a Big Ten guy this year. I'm not going to be betting. Trying not to bet sides on pretty much any Big Ten game. We have Nebraska as a touchdown favorite, which right off the hop lets you know this one's going to be ugly if Nebraska's a touchdown favorite. There's a lot of weird stuff going on here. There was some news that came out that Scott Frost is under investigation, or I guess the whole program. Nebraska announced they're under investigation, improper use of analysts. There's a lot of speculation that maybe he's on the hot seat. Maybe Nebraska's doing that to have an out because things are not going super great in the Scott Frost era. And there really just doesn't seem to be any momentum at all. It's not going anywhere. They need to build that momentum this year. So either way, whether that speculation is true or not, whether that gives him an out to get out of his contract to avoid that buyout, either way, there's a ton of pressure on. There's the whole spotlight's on for multiple reasons. The pressure's on them to perform. So they get an Illinois team in week 1 that hasn't had a winning season since 2011. They're breaking in a new head coach. Brett Bielema came out of retirement, last coached in 2017. In the college ranks in 2017 with Arkansas, was a total disaster, total shit mess at Arkansas. And now he's coming back and he's at Illinois. So the thought process is that he'll take over because he's had this recipe. He knows how to win in the Big Ten. He knows the recipe, and I would say kind of a different recipe when you're cooking in Illinois' kitchen than when you're cooking in Madison, Wisconsin, when you're cooking with a guy. Probably not going to make it to 3 straight Rose Bowls in Illinois, right? But at the same time, it did go south pretty quickly with Lovie Smith, and I do think they have a full rebuild breaking in those 2 coordinators. I see why Nebraska's favorite. I actually am very surprised this is not a 2-score. So if a 2-score spread. So if I had to go anywhere, I would go Nebraska. So I'm going to treat it as if Nebraska's favorite and as if they're going to win because that just seems like the most likely way to approach this. How's Nebraska going to score points? Adrian Martinez, man. This guy, I'm going to play a decent amount of Adrian Martinez. He's only 6.8K. It's a short slate, and he's a dual threat. We know he can run. He's going up against the Illinois defense that gave up over 230 rushing yards at a 5.2 clip last year. And pretty much what Nebraska's going to want to say. So the one reason I'm worried about his passing volume is that, basically how they lose games a lot of times is Adrian Martinez fucks up. He turns the ball over. So they may not have him throw as much as they possibly can, but I do think his rushing volume will be very solid. Their running back room, which we'll talk about in a minute, is not sorted out at all. I really think they're going to rely on him. I think he has some solid volume on the ground, and then he's obviously going to attempt 20 passes or so, which isn't great, 25, but he is a very dangerous runner, and he's been in college for about 100 years, so he should have that experience, right? As far as the running back room, mild interest only because look at how cheap they are, and they're playing a terrible Illinois team that gave up 230 rushing yards. But the thing is, This totally seems like it's going to be a running back by committee. They haven't announced who the starter is. A lot of people have been assuming it's going to be Marquise Stepp, transfer from USC. If you remember USC, they had about 4 running backs they give carries to. Stepp was one of them, and none of them did any good. So a lot of them were highly recruited. Did they not do any good because USC can't run the ball and their offensive line stinks? Well, yeah, that kind of seems like it. So who knows how good this guy Stepp is. But he's a big dude. I would imagine he's going to get goal line carries. I'd imagine they're going to score here. He has been a little banged up. It sounds like he should be back at practice. Doesn't sound like he's going to get a huge workload, but he could stumble into a touchdown, 4.9K. It's decent. I think the most interesting is Gabe Ervin at 4.1K. I say he's interesting. It doesn't necessarily mean I need him in every lineup. But I think he has the most potential. He's a freshman I'm really excited about. I think he's going to be the starter by year end. I'm a little annoyed. This little news and note here kind of said basically the same thing I'm thinking, that he has the best opportunity to take over. If anybody's going to be a lead back, it's probably going to be him. So I'm a little annoyed because I'm like, no, that's what I thought. Why are we giving these nuggets to everybody? So that doesn't mean he's going to have it in week 0 as a true freshman, right? But he is very talented, and with Stepp banged up, I would have to think Ervin has a chance to get the most carries. Other than that, Morrison, he's another freshman. He's at 3K, and there's a chance he gets the first carry. So I think this is one to monitor. I think right now there's not exactly any nuggets, any news and notes I saw that led me to believe one guy's going to get more carries than another. So I think it's going to be RBBC. But Morrison's going to be getting carries, and he's playing against a terrible Illinois rushing attack. So I think Morrison at 3K is worth considering at least if you need that punt. Other than that, the wide receivers here, Martin's going to be on the field. Manning is going to be on the field. They're talented. I think Manning at 4K is all right. But like I said, the passing volume's not great. So if I'm looking at anybody, it's going to be Torrey. He transferred in from, I think it was Montana, FCS ranks. He's going to be playing in the slot. He's a beast. If they're in the red zone, it's either him or Manning they're going to be looking to. Every single article I have read about Nebraska just finds a way to mention Torrey. From the beginning of camp to the end of camp right here in game week, it's all about Torrey. So if I'm playing one, I think Torrey is going to be the wide receiver 1, and he's only 4.9K. So he's interesting. Other than that, I don't know if I really needed a 3.8 guy. I would consider Austin Allen. He's their tight end. He gets decent workload. One guy some people are going to look to is Xavier Betts. He's super, super talented. When he's on the field with the ball in his hand, he's really good. If he gets the ball in the hand, there's a chance he could break a 60-yarder if you're looking for that sort of thing. But the quotes really have not been good about him. A guy some people were high on in Dynasty, and is just the coaches were not about Xavier Betts. They're basically trying to motivate him. So, yeah, basically Torrey there if I'm going wide receiver. But there's not going to be a ton of passing. That's I think I'm going to take the under 55 in this game just because I think both teams are keeping it on the ground, right? You have Brett Bielema on one side. Other than that, so Illinois, like I said, they're going to keep it on the ground. No interest in Brandon Peters at 6.5K. He's almost as expensive as Adrian Martinez, which is ridiculous. Chase Brown at 5K, super, super interesting. I do think they might split the carries a little bit between Hayden, Epstein, and Chase Brown. But I do think Chase Brown, he got a lot of carries towards the end of the year. If there's going to be one workhorse, it's definitely going to be Chase Brown. I would be surprised if he doesn't get at least 15 carries here. Unless they go down a lot early, but still, it's Brett Bielema. What else is he going to do? That's all he knows how to do, and he has a new OC who's from the Wisconsin era. So, I think Chase Brown 5K is very interesting. I don't think there's any reason to stoop below that in the running back room. Other than that, I don't know why you play an Illinois wide receiver unless you're a masochist. Juice Williams, Isaiah Williams, moved over from quarterback to wide receiver. He's probably going to get some in the Wildcat. He's a very, very talented player. I love watching this guy. I hope they give him the ball. It sounds like they want to, but who knows how much. So I think at 5K, he's the only guy I would consider here. Other than that, their tight end Barker at 4.2K. This offense likes to target their tight ends. I think he's okay. Luke Ford will also be on the field a decent amount, but he's a secondary tight end, so if you really need another punt at 3.1K, that's it. All right. UConn versus Fresno. The return of UConn football. The moment you've all been waiting for, right? It's going to be 638 days since they last played a snap in a live football game. I almost said professional football game. These kids are not quite professionals yet. Shout out NIL, though. Man, a lot has happened since the last show. But anyway, they're going to be rusty. And they were really bad to start with, and now they're just going to be bad with rust. So it's a 27.5 point spread. Over under 62.5. Fresno is supposed to score a lot, and folks, I think they are going to score a lot. Looking at UConn's offense, I just want to touch on it real quick. They said they're going to split reps at quarterback, so good luck figuring that one out. But I think it's pretty much set in stone. They're going to split reps, and they haven't said who's going to get the first snaps. Although it looks like Zergiotis is. So absolutely no interest. Although they're really cheap if you really hate yourself and want to go down there. Other than that, I actually think the running back's mildly interesting. Kevin Mensah, I think he's either hit or gotten very close to 1,000 yards in 3 straight years. And that's the whole team's identity. They want to keep it on the ground, which doesn't really make sense because they're going to fall behind early in pretty much every game, and then they're going to keep it on the ground. Part of the reason this program's not really going anywhere right now. But Kevin Mensah, man, they love giving this guy the rock. I will say this guy Burns, I think he's a transfer from Miami. He's very talented behind him. He can get some carries as well, so I'm a little worried that might, that's the toughest competition he's faced in a while. But week 0 after a long layoff, they're probably going to rely mostly on their guy Mensah. So 4.2, he's aight. I don't really know what his upside is, but Fresno State's defense. So first off, Fresno State's defense isn't good, but UConn's offense isn't good either. So they could score some points, but with the rust, I'm not going to rely on it. Guy I have the most interest in on UConn, I might play some of, is Cam Ross. Cam Ross has had some good games in his career. He's very talented. He's by far the best player on the UConn offense. I guess him and Mensah both. But this kid's talented, man. He's really talented. I think he had like a 40-point game 2 years ago. I remember that because I had him in either a lineup or I had him in a season-long lineup. But yeah, he's good. They're going to force feed him because they have nobody else here. I saw Drayton was out for the season, and then I couldn't confirm that, but I saw a beat writer on Twitter say that. So that's what I'm going to go with for now. And he was by far their second best wide receiver, in my opinion. Other than that, at 3.4K, I think Jay Rose is a decent opinion. He's going to be their starting tight end. Never really done much more than 200 yards and 2 touchdowns in a season, but he will be on the field, and it looks like he might be their second best pass catcher at this point in time. All right, Fresno. They're obviously going to be the mush play. They're going to be the smash play. Honestly, it's hard not to see why, though. You have to get pretty contrarian not to have some Fresno here. Hayner's going to be the best quarterback on the board. Rivers is going to be the best running back on the board. And Cropper's going to be the best wide receiver on the board. Now, does that mean they're going to score the most points? Not necessarily. I think the Hawaii-UCLA game is where that gets interesting because it might even be contrarian to do a game stack. But it's going to be Hawaii-UCLA and then Fresno, which is why I'm considering playing some Adrian Martinez just to be a little different. But Hayner's a smash play. He averaged 336 yards per game when he transferred from Washington last year. Led the Mountain West. He's an absolute beast. 9.7, he's expensive. Maybe you could target his options and not him and just play Martinez or then play Martinez and one of the quarterbacks in Hawaii, UCLA. Rivers, absolutely fantastic. He's a PPR machine. He's pretty much guaranteed to run wild over this defense that was last seen giving up like 240 rushing yards per game. Just real bad. So Rivers is a smash play. He's by far the best running back on the board. If you want to get different, you could fade Rivers, but I think that's going to be pretty hard. He should probably be 8.8K at least on this slate. So hard not to play him. I think you have the price savings. You can play him just about anywhere. I made a few lineups without him just to be contrarian, but not a lot. Jalen Cropper's tough, man. So he's always been very talented. So I'm on the West Coast. If you don't know, I'm on the West Coast. Stay up late, watch a lot of Mountain West, a lot of these West Coast schools. And Cropper's always been a guy who really flashed on the screen. But, they didn't really use him much. They have a really good wide receiving core. First off, fantastic receiving core at Fresno, which means they might split the reps here. But anyway, last 3 games of the season last year, Cropper finally realizes that potential. Goes absolutely bananas. In 3 games, he had 29 receptions, over 400 yards, and 4 touchdowns. In just 3 games. So I think he's the pretty clear-cut one. He could have a monster game at 7.3. I see why. Now, they also could go up 28-0 and not pass as much. That's a little bit of a concern. So I don't think you have to play him, but I think he's definitely the top receiver. Zane Pope, 6.7K. I don't see how anybody could play him. He's listed as a backup on the depth chart. He's a very good wide receiver, like I said. I think they're going to rotate. I don't think they're just going to totally bench him. So if you want to get super contrarian, sure. Otherwise, mispricing. Wheatfall is going to split reps with Ty Jones, they're listed as or on the depth chart, and that pricing's wrong. I'm not playing any Wheatfall unless I'm being contrarian, but I'm not playing any. I think Ty Jones is extremely interesting. This guy's a Washington transfer, and was a pretty decent. He was a starter at Washington. He's a good wide receiver. Put up almost 500 yards and 6 touchdowns in the Pac-12. So transferred over as well with Haener, right? They're both Washington transfers. They have that connection. I've seen some rave reviews in practice over the last couple of weeks. I'm surprised he's not listed as a clear-cut starter on the depth chart, but like I said, this is a super, super, super deep and super talented wide receiving core for a group of 5 team. And in general, it's very, very talented. So Ty Jones at 3.9K is absolutely fantastic. Again, there is a worry. He may not even be on the field for half the snaps. I think if he sees the field for like 75% of snaps at 3.9K, he's by far the best value. But again, that's just something we don't know. So high risk, high reward. I will be playing a decent amount of Ty Jones. Other than that, Josh Kelly is way too cheap at 4.4K, so he's going to be starting. It's going to be Cropper, Kelly, and then either Jones and Wheatfall. And like I said, I would imagine Jones gets more than Wheatfall. Kelly's productions has always been on par with Wheatfall when they've been on the field. So right there, that's a total mispricing, 5.4 to 4.4. And now Kelly's going to be starting, and Wheatfall may not be. And if he is, he's splitting reps. So I think Kelly is absolutely fantastic at 4.4 as well. All right, Hawaii UCLA, last game here on the main slate. I'll try to touch on the night slate a little bit if I have time. I wasn't planning to, but since it's probably going to be a short video, I'll see if I'll hit the night slate. There's only 2 games, and it's not really very interesting. But anyway, the last real game here. Oh, real game. Shots fired. Hawaii at UCLA. So, story on this one, UCLA returns everybody. Pretty much the most returning production in the whole country, or close to it, in a year where everybody returns production. And I kind of like them, which is weird for me to say, because I went into last season totally on the fade UCLA train, or at least I wanted to be. I didn't believe in them. I didn't see how you could possibly believe in them, given some of the performances that they were putting out there. But man, they showed me something last year. They were tough out. They lost a lot of close games. I think they only went 3-4. But man, they were up into it with their backup quarterback playing a team like Oregon. They just looked like a much better team. They looked way better defensively. In areas. Their secondary was pretty bad, but they looked way better in areas. That being said, so now I'm not fading them. Now I kind of like them. I'm rooting for them. But I still can't trust them here. They're getting 17.5 points against Hawaii. Hawaii's not great, and I'm not a huge Hawaii believer, but Chip Kelly's 0-6 in non-conference games at UCLA, and that includes an 0-4 record against a group of 5 teams in the non-con. Well, obviously that's in the non-con. But no way I'm going to trust them to cover by 3 scores. That being said, I do think they're probably going to win this game. I do want a decent amount of exposure to UCLA because Hawaii's defense is just UCLA is playing at home, and it's week 0, and they got a ton of experience. You best know that they're 0-6 in the non-con. You know they're coming out there, and I would be very shocked if they lose this game. So if they lose this game, then I'm just going to say I'm never betting another Chip Kelly game again, right? Because who knows what to expect out of this guy? And that is Chip Kelly in a nutshell, right? At this stage in his career, who knows what to expect? But probably for the most part not much good. But this should be a game they come out and take care of business. So anyway, let's look at Hawaii's offense. Chavon Cordero, I really wanted to fade him on the slate just because there's other quarterbacks, but I think you have to have some exposure. He's 7.5K, and he's a dual threat quarterback playing the UCLA defense. Like I said, that is beatable. You go back and look through his game logs, he's been inconsistent, but at the same time, he's had some real duds. I think everyone would be surprised if he has a real dud here. I guess I could see some factors why he might, but with that rushing ability, it kind of gives him that floor. His stacking options aren't great. Jared Smart, I think, is clearly their number 1 guy, but he did not have a fantastic year last year. Still, they're clearly number 1 guy, but their offense wasn't good last year at all. Like, they were in the 80s and 90s in some success rate metrics. They just weren't good. And I think a lot of people don't realize that this Hawaii offense just flat out wasn't good, and they flat out weren't good at throwing the football. So that being said, Hawaii secondary, or UCLA secondary, not great. Other than that, Martiner's going to be on the field. He's 6'6", but he hasn't really shown he can do anything. Might get you a touchdown at 4.7K. And other than that, their tight ends at the Stone Cold Men at 3K, Phillips, but I don't think he's caught a pass in his entire career, and Hawaii never uses their tight ends. So if you're stacking, I'd go Smart, but I think you could play Cordero with no stack given his rushing ability. Other than that, Calvin Turner, one of the most fun players in all of college football. This guy is awesome. He's listed as a running back / wide receiver on the starting depth chart, which is super weird, and he is a little weird. He's an interesting player. He was a starting quarterback in the FCS rank. I think it was at Jacksonville State. Might have that wrong. And now he's a running back / wide receiver. They line him up at Wildcat. One of the most dangerous guys in all of college football. So let me see if I can pull up his game log. Last year, I was trying to fade the heck out of this guy. So I'm like, who is this FCS guy? It's super unsustainable. He's getting like 4 receptions for 88 yards. Like, that's a typical stat line for him. He would do that. And I'm like, there's no way he's going to keep up those big plays. Well, it's college football. If you're an explosive player, you're going to keep up those big plays. And Calvin Turner is the definition of an explosive player. Volume's not fantastic at 6.4K, but the PPR upside is huge. I think he's fine at 6.4. I don't think you have to play him in every single lineup, but he's by far their best player. The offense is going to run through him and Cordero, so you want you some Calvin Turner. Other than that, Day Hunter, Day, whatever it is, he's going to be their starting rusher, but he didn't really accomplish much last year. And like I said, UCLA's defense was improved. Their rush defense especially, they only allowed 3.6 yards per carry, so I think that's something that's really going to help them in this matchup. I don't think Hawaii's a team that could throw it all over the yard if they're not doing well. Unless Turner just absolutely eats them alive, they're going to need that to happen. All right, UCLA, Dorian Thompson-Robinson's back for his 100th year at quarterback. Reason it's tough to play him at 8.5K, and I think you have to consider it because he's a dual threat going against this Hawaii defense that's beatable in a game that has a total. So this is the highest total on the slate. Is at 69.5 last I checked, which I'm playing the under. I tell you that right now for a number of factors already listed. Dorian Thompson-Robinson's been out of practice. Now, I'm not sure where to go with this because I've already heard a few people mentioning, oh, he's not going to be at full speed. He did miss a number of days. And I think that's the correct way to look at it. That's the correct reaction to have, I guess. But, I mean, it seemed to me pretty clear he was out with COVID because they didn't say why he was out. He's mysteriously gone for 10 to 14 days, and then he's back at practice like it's nothing. So, I don't know if he's injured. I don't know if it's COVID, but at least we could say there's some factors that it makes it a little tough at 8.5K to consider. That being said, Britton Brown, extremely underpriced. I love me some Britton Brown at 5.6K. In my season-long leagues, shout out Kings Classic League, I have him on this team, actually. I'm wearing the shirt for the league. I have him on pretty much every single season-long team, and I didn't even go into that, with the plan. Basically, here's the thing. Demetric Felton was a running back last year. Extremely explosive. Good receiver as well as running back. Kind of like a Calvin Turner, actually. It'd be nice if we got to see them match up. I get sidetracked. Anyway, Britton Brown, he really outcarried him last year. I think it was about 2 yards per carry. He was better than Demetric Felton last year, which was fantastic, and he was kind of in the RB2 role. He got a chance to be the RB1 against Stanford at the end of the year. He ran for over 200 yards. He's a big dude. His metrics, his elusive metrics, his broken tackle metrics, all this stuff at PFF is absolutely fantastic. I think if this guy gets RB1 touches, I mean, holy Toledo, he's going to go off this year, right? In this offense that's shown they can run the heck out of the ball. That being said, Zach Charbonnet decided to mess everything up and transfer in for Michigan. Now, I don't know if it's going to mess everything up, but it certainly might. At 5.3K. And by the way, Charbonnet is too cheap on FanDuel. It's only 6.6. Charbonnet was a very talented guy from Calabasas, so from SoCal. He transferred in, but at Michigan he did nothing. So it's like, did he do nothing because he's at Michigan? Because everyone does nothing at Michigan, right? All the talent goes to waste at Michigan. But now he's in UCLA. With how talented he's supposed to be, it seems like he might be. You would think putting that guy in Chip Kelly's offense, Charbonnet could absolutely go off. So, tough to say. 17.5-point favorites, you probably should look at Charbonnet as well. But I think at that price, I think Britton Brown's the play. All right, a wide receiver. Chip Kelly's wide receivers haven't been very interesting. Cam Phillips, the top guy, but I think he's too expensive. He's not usually a high ceiling guy, although maybe he's going to be. But not really explosive guy, more of a PPR guy. Greg Dulcich is one of the top tight ends in all of college football at 6K. I think you have to consider him. I think he's the top option. That being said, he's not super reliable. He did have, if he has any touchdown regression this year, his points per game are going to go down. But I think you have to consider him. I think it's him and Cropper as the top 2 receiver options this week. Other than that, Chase Coto's going to be on the field at 4.6K. He's all right, but the secondary receiver options, like I said, haven't gotten much work. I think you have to consider Cam Brown as a punt play. Transfer for Texas A&M. He's going to start, and he's only 3.4K. They almost never use their third wide receiver a lot in this offense, but you could say there's room for somebody to step up, and he's a transfer from A&M. He's 3.4K, so I could see yourself getting talked into that. All right, that's the slate. Let me see if I can pull up the night slate. Sometimes when I do this, when I'm streaming or when I'm recording, it kind of crashes the system. So if I do this and it crashes the system, I will end here and go to PrizePicks. All right, yeah, it looks like that's going to crash. So for the night slate, I'm not going to go over it all, but I do have a few thoughts and opinions. Let me see here. For that night slate, so I mean, I think you need to consider a Starkle stack for San Jose State. I bet San Jose State minus 23.5. They're playing a 1-5 FCS team, picked to finish in the bottom of the Big Sky, and they're playing the Mountain West champions, San Jose State. So that just seems like a mismatch. I think you got to consider everyone in San Jose State. Everyone. They have a starting receiver who's, I think he's the stone cold minimum as well, LaVille. But every other guy's in consideration. Other than that, UTEP versus New Mexico State. I love me some UTEP. I love me Deion Hankins. I'm going to talk about him right now for PrizePicks. At their wide receivers, they got Cowling, they got Garrett. I think all those guys are within consideration. New Mexico State allowed 41 points per game in 2019, and they just got beat up by some FCS squads in the spring. So, not going to consider them. All right, to end the show, let's go over PrizePicks. Once again, you get a $100 deposit match up to $100, 100%. Matching your deposit using the promo code Yonke, YONKE. Again, that's over here, and I'll put that link in the description. So, let's go over PrizePicks. So how this works, if you've never seen it, you get the option, so you can select CFB. You can see they have all these things. You could do boxing, cricket, Jake Paul's boxing. You could do his over, under, whatever. You select CFB. You can do either single stat DFS or you can do fantasy score. I mostly like to look at fantasy score. I think some of the single stat DFS things are interesting as well. For fantasy score, some guys that I like that I mentioned. I mean, I guess I kind of like Martinez's over. I like Chase Brown's over 12. Hayner's probably going to go over 25.5. It's not a sure thing. Cropper's probably going to go over 16.5. I guess I take the under on Wheatfall, but I'm not going to because I don't want any Fresno State unders. Ronnie Rivers over 19.5. I think I have to play that. Deion Hankins 14. That's not too bad. Jawan Price under 10. New Mexico State. He's going to split carries with Amari Samuels. I don't see why I go over that. You could take any New Mexico State under, and I don't hate it. I think Tyler Nevins is probably going over 11, right? He's matched up with an FCS squad starting running back for a team that was started the season 7-0 last year. So I like those. I like Rivers. I think Cropper's decent. I think Chase Brown's decent. So I just selected a few. Any single stats that I'm looking at? Jawan Price under. Again, if I didn't take his fantasy under, I think I'd take his yards under. Passing yards, they look pretty tight. I think Zergiotis, he could go under. Again, he's probably going to split reps, and even if he doesn't split reps, it's a team that likes to run, and who knows what he's going to bring to the table. It's not a terrible under. Jonah Johnson, he might split reps as well. New Mexico State's quarterback. It listed as a co-starter. I would go under there. Actually, that Southern Utah quarterback's not too bad. He might go over the 150, but I'm not betting it, or I'm not picking it. Any receiving yards I like? Let's see. Cropper's probably gone over 72.5. I can tell you that much. Went over 103 straight. Had 200 in that. Yeah, like I said, he had 403 games. So he's probably going over. I could just say I'm selecting it. Already got 5. And then Ronnie Rivers, if you don't take his fantasy point total, I think he's going over. I think he's going to get a rushing touchdown, right? He's playing UConn. All right, so how that works, then you select over-under. So like I took Ronnie Rivers over fantasy points, Ron Price. I could take some of his unders. Right here I have Hankins up. I take him. Zergiotis under, Chase Brown over. So again, you don't have to go with 5. You can go with 2. You could go with 3. And you get an option of what to select. If you go with 5, you can go ahead and do that full entry and place it. So if you get all 5 right, that would be a 10 times payout. So $20 entry will get you $200 if you hit all 5. If you hit 4, it's a lesser payout. I forget what it is. And then if you hit 3, you get a half payout. So go in there. There's a lot of different options to choose. I think the most common is usually choosing either 2 or 3. I think I like using 3 because you don't have to hit them all. You can hit 2 and still get some profit. All right, what I wanted to look at. College football futures. So hopefully you're still with me. If you have access to PrizePicks, I think you have to put in some of these college football futures because I love some of these. I think some of these are way too low. So running backs, Kyron Williams is probably going to go over 1,000 yards. Tank Bigsby's probably going to go over 1,000 yards, although they just raised him, so I don't like that one quite as much. Traylon Smith's probably going over 900. He's more of a receiving back. Chris Rodriguez over 900 rushing yards. They said they're going to get him at least 20 carries a game for a primarily rushing team, a very good rushing team with a very good offensive line. Spencer Rattler's going to throw for over 3,300 yards. Probably some of these other guys too. They finally just raised JT Daniels. Otherwise, I was thinking about going over on him. Boutte is going to have more. He's like a first round fantasy dude in college. So he's going over 1050 in all certainty. If he plays, if he doesn't get hurt, if these guys don't get hurt. Traylon Burks is also like a second round, first round fantasy guy. He's only at 900. There's no way he's going over that. So, all these passing TDs are too low. I think Rattler's money in the bank. I already took him for passing yards. Matt Corral at 29. That's got to be one of my favorite on the board. DJU's going over this. He might be a Heisman finalist. He's at 25.5. Sam Howell's probably going over, but I don't feel quite as confident in it. Even Bo Nix is probably going over. JT Daniels probably going over. Emory Jones might get close, but he's more of a runner. And there's some more in there that I like. But those are some of the 5 that I really, really like, especially that Matt Corral touchdowns and then Chris Rodriguez rushing yards over. So, anyway, thanks for tuning into the show. Once again, Twitter at YonkersCFB. Thank you to anybody who listened. If you could subscribe, if you could rate, if you could review, that would be fantastic. I'm going to post a link. If you want to listen to the audio version, I'm going to have that up on Spotify, or it's going to be up on Apple Podcasts as well. I'm doing a lot of exciting things this year. I just thank every single one of you guys for listening. I encourage the interaction. Again, the more information we have, the better we can try to tackle this here. So with that being said, I'm out. Let's make it a very good college football season. Crack a beer and watch some football on Saturday, and you know I'll be doing the exact same thing.